Hello everyone. We continue with Chapter 3, Part 5. There was a man named Ryoma Sakamoto. He was a ronin from the Tosa domain and had allied himself with the Satsuma and Choshu domains as well. For a time, the Kyoto Judiciary Commissioner, Mimi Warigumi, and even the Shinsengumi were desperate to find him. The Mimawarigumi were a civilian police force similar to the Shinsengumi, but composed of the sons of shogunate vassals and therefore somewhat higher ranking. They were charged with protecting the imperial estate and the Nijo castle area in Kyoto. After his orchestration of the restoration of imperial rule, however, orders were passed down to leave him alone. I only had a general idea of who he was and what he'd done, but even I had figured out that he was an important person, so when I heard Inoue mention him, I listened. Ryoma Sakamoto has been assassinated. You serious, Gen? Said Harada. Do they know who did it? Sakamoto had a lot of enemies, said Nagakura. Could have been imperialists or loyalists. Hell, it could have just been personal, in which case my money's on Miura of Kishu. And the Kishu is one of the three main branches of the Tokugawa clan. Ha, said Okita. You think maybe they're looking at us for it? Damn, if the bastard was going to get killed anyway, I should have done him. That's not very funny coming from you, said Nagakura. In fact, weren't we specifically told to leave him alone? I'd never met Sakamoto, I barely knew who he was, but I felt somehow that his death would shake the country to its core. Inoue frowned. As you all know, there was a decision made far above us, and Kondo was ordered to leave Ryoma Sakamoto alone. Unfortunately, Inoue continued, the rest of the country is unlikely to see it that way. A scabbard belonging to a member of the Shinsengumi was found at the scene of his death. There has been a request for an official inquiry. A scabbard? Is that really enough evidence? If it isn't, I'm sure they'll just fabricate more, said Harada. It's obviously a ruse. Who are they saying it belonged to anyway? Actually, said Inoue, they say it was yours, Harada. What? Of all the people to try and frame for murder, Harada? Really, Sano? Said Okita. Damn, wish you'd brought me with you. Oh, knock it off, Okita, said Harada. Besides, my scabbard's right here. This is idiotic. He threw up his hands in exasperation. Inoue smiled faintly and nodded. I don't suspect you, and neither does anyone else here. Unfortunately, I doubt the rest of the nation will extend you the same courtesy. I imagine they're having trouble determining the real culprit, said Inoue. There was talk that Kyotaro Miura from Kishu asked the Shinsengumi to kill Ryoma. Miura? That was the man Nagakura had mentioned. He had some sort of personal quarrel with Sakamoto, which made him a suspect. I'm sure there's plenty of people who'd love to pin this one on the Shinsengumi, said Nagakura, but unless someone did it and lied about it, there's no way it was us. Unless Sanan decided to go do a little work off the books, said Okita. The room fell silent. How is Sanan these days? Asked Harada. Our reputation is grisly enough, but the rumours I've been hearing about the night patrol are even worse. It was true that Sanan had been acting stranger and stranger. Although I didn't want to believe it, I had to admit it wasn't that difficult to imagine him doing something like that. When I passed him on occasion in the hallways, his eyes were dry and thirsty, as if he was always hungry for blood. We'll have to be careful then, said Nagakura. We can't let people learn about the Furies. About that, said Hijikata. Oh, hey, Kondo, Hijikata, war, said Harada. Saito? Said Nagakura. What the hell are you doing here? I rubbed vigorously at my eyes, looked, then did it again. But there was no doubt. The man who'd followed Kondo and Hijikata into the room was the man who'd left to join the Guardians of the Imperial Tomb, Saito himself. Oh, hello, Saito, said Inoue. It's been a while. What happened to the guard? What are you talking about, Inoue? There's no way Hijikata would allow anyone from the guard here. We're prohibited from even talking to them. Just shut up, all right, said Hijikata. Starting today, Saito's back in the Shinsengumi. What? What? Said Harada. Hold on a second there, Hijikata. We're glad he's back, don't get me wrong, but what happened with the guard? And Itou? It was Saito who answered. You're mistaken, but understandably, I was never one of Itou's supporters. In fact, Saito joined Itou and his men as a spy under Toshi's direct orders, said Kondo. And with that, everything suddenly made sense. They say that to fool your enemy, you must first fool your allies, and Saito had been doing just that. What? Come on, Saito, said Okita. It's not fair for you to go off and have fun without letting me in on it. Man, you just about scared the pants off me, said Nagakura. Not cool, Kondo. This was all top secret, said Kondo. I'm sorry I had to keep it from all of you. It was a surprise, to be sure, but I was glad we'd have Saito back with us again. I gave him a tentative smile, but he only sighed and shook his head. It's too early to feel relieved, Saito said. The last 6 months in the guard have made it clear Itou and his followers are going to take action against the Shinsengumi. What sort of action? Asked Inoue. Itou is going to expose the Fury Corps to discredit the shogunate, said Hijikata. There's even talk that he's working with Satsuma to that end. If the existence and creation of the monstrous Furies was to become public knowledge, the shogunate's reputation would be irreparably damaged, and the Shinsengumi would undoubtedly suffer as well. Even I could predict that. Saito said, There's more. Itou plans to assassinate the chief of the Shinsengumi. You mean Kondo? Kondo's face was stern and tense, but he kept silent. He glanced over at Hichikata. The guard is moving to destroy the Shinsengumi. You've already heard about Sakamoto, right? Said Hichikata. Yeah, some crap about me being the killer, said Harada. Right, said Hichikata. Well, you have the guardians of the Imperial Tomb to thank. They've been spreading the rumor that Kyotaro Miura of Kishu hired the Shinsengumi and that Harada put the sword in him. Hichikata explained that Miura insisted that he didn't do it, but is sure that someone's going to take a stab at him eventually. So, Saito's going to be guarding Miura for now, said Hichikata. If it looks like he just left and then came back, it won't be too hard for Itou to put 2 and 2 together. I understand, said Saito. Until this matter is settled, it is better that I'm not seen here. Here Hichikata paused for a moment. The room was utterly silent. Every one of us could sense that what came next would be very, very important. Kashitaro Itou, said Hichikata. It's not enough for you to expose the Fury Corps. You have to try and kill Kondo too, huh? He spoke quietly, almost to himself, as if sharing a final moment with a former comrade. Then he looked up, and when he spoke, his voice was like cold steel, the voice of the demon. It's too bad it has to be this way, but we don't have a choice. Itou dies. Said Kondo. I suppose you're right. It can't be helped. Kondo nodded, and that was that. The Shinsengumi would kill Kashitaro Itou. First, we'll invite Itou to Kondo's second home. I'll be there too, said Hichikata. Once he's dead, we can use Itou's corpse to lure out the rest of the guard and kill them. Nagakura, Harada, I'm assigning you and your divisions to this. Take care of it. Hey, Hichikata, said Okita, who do you want me to kill? No one. You're staying here in bed, said Hichikata. You've still got that cough, don't you? You're sick. Saito will be here for a few days, so you'll have someone to play with. You're a real bastard, Hichikata, said Okita. It all seemed very calculated for murder. I hadn't realized I'd been sitting still, dumbfounded, until I felt a gentle tap on my shoulder. Saito? This will be the end of the Guardians of the Imperial Tomb. If we are going to return Heisuke to the fold, it must be now or never. He was right. If they meant to kill the guard, that included Heisuke. Hichikata, what are you going to do with Heisuke? He's part of the guard now. Isn't that obvious? Said Nagakura. We'll save him, of course. No, said Hichikata. He fights us, he dies. What? No, you can't mean that. That's wrong. Hichikata showed no sign that he'd even heard me. I watched his back disappear out the door. You're actually going to order them to kill Heisuke? Don't you care what happens to him? Of course we care, said Kondo. I know that deep down Toshi wants to save him too. I'll talk to him later. The last few words he mumbled to himself and then coughed nervously as if embarrassed that he'd raised his voice. It was only then that I realized how much Kondo was suffering, how much they were all suffering, even Hijikata. I'm sorry for saying that. No need to apologize, said Kondo. It makes me happy, quite honestly. I'm glad people care for Heisuke. Kondo let out a slow breath, then looked up at me and smiled. He turned to Nagakura and Harada and spoke in a low voice. I'm asking you this not as your chief, but as Isami Kondo. Let Heisuke live, and if you can, try and convince him to come back. Got it, said Nagakura. Leave it to us, Chief, said Harada. As they discussed the details of their orders, I sat and wondered what I should do. What could I do? I trust everything's clear. If you have questions, now's the time, said Kondo. Wait! I heard myself begin to speak, my voice surprisingly calm and dignified. I haven't been given any orders. I would like to help. This is a dirty job, said Kondo. You really shouldn't be involved. It was true. This wasn't a patrol or even a guarding mission. This was the assassination of a former comrade and an attack on men who'd split from the Shinsengumi. And here's my choice, still wanted to help or decided to stay home. And it's really quite obvious that I still wanted to help. Still, I wanted to do what I could. It might be my last chance to see Heisuke. Please let me go. I won't get in the way. This isn't like anything you've done before, Chizuru, said Nagakura. You understand that, right? We're killing someone who used to be one of us, said Harada. Much as we don't want to, we might even have to kill Heisuke. I know, it's not something to be taken lightly, I said. I knew that the Shinsengumi had carried out these sorts of black operations before. There was no way I could have stayed with them as long as I had and not known, but that was why I couldn't simply stand by and let them shoulder all the responsibility. I'd spent enough time looking away until the deed was done. No more. Perhaps it's presumptuous of me to say so, but I consider myself a member of the Shinsengumi. Then you're determined to do this, I see, said Kondo. His face had lost its usual warmth. It wasn't anger or cruelty that it showed now, but the gravity of a general addressing his men. Tell me then, how do you intend to help? I had already decided. I would, and the choice is, help with Itou or convince Heisuke. And this is a tricky choice. I was at first inclined to go with the Heisuke option, but I think I'll take the first one, which is help with Itou. I would help lure Itou into the trap the Shinsengumi had planned for him. He was quite cautious at first, but after some prompting to talk about issues he was familiar with and the liberal application of alcohol, he loosened up significantly. His high spirits provided an almost sickening contrast to the fate that awaited him. Nationalism is very nearly a taboo term these days, you know, said Itou. His laughter echoed hollowly through my skull. In his smile I could already see the rictus grin of a corpse. We were entertaining Itou at Kondo's second home, and all night the alcohol had flown easily. Even the Satsuma and Choshu have finally realized they cannot rival foreign technology and influence, and have begun to adopt outside culture. I see, said Kondo, such as... let me think. Yes, for example, the gun, firearms. They've managed to import a great many guns and have been training their men in Western warfare and tactics. He nodded sagely and gestured somewhat awkwardly with his cup. Kondo nodded solemnly in agreement. Interesting, said Hijikata. Maybe we should start thinking about training the Shinsengumi in Western tactics. Yes, you agree. You must be able to see the big picture these days, said Itou. Yeah, said Hijikata, we might be on different paths, but we're all headed for the same destination. Another drink, Itou? Here you are, I said. It was perfectly normal alcohol, no poison or drugs, but we were making him drunk in order to murder him. How was that any different than me pouring poison straight into his cup? My goodness, dear, you're shaking. Are you all right? Are you feeling ill? Asked Itou. You needn't worry about her, Itou, said Kondo. She's just nervous about speaking to you. Oh my, am I so terribly intriguing? What a bad girl you are. Yeah, she gives herself away too easily, said Hijikata. Kid needs a little self-control. The subtle message was clear. Hide your emotions, Chizuru. I swallowed and nodded. It had been my choice to help with Itou's assassination. The least I could do now was not get in the way. Yes, I'm sorry. Oh, rubbish, said Itou. This is a party. We needn't be so stiff. Aha, Kondo said. Itou, you truly are a man worthy of distinction. Time passed and alcohol was drunk. Well, it was nice to enjoy a meaningful conversation, and now farewell, said Itou. After spending all night expounding on his theories for the advancement of Japanese society, Itou finally stumbled off into the darkness more than a little drunk. I watched him disappear. It would be the last time I would see him alive. This feels wrong, Toshi, said Kondo. It's the path we chose, said Hijikata. It's our duty to do this, but that doesn't mean we have to be proud of it. Sometimes the job's dirty. Look, Chief, said Hijikata. This one's not on your head, all right? I made the plan. I gave the orders. Hijikata let out a long sigh, his eyes staring off into the darkness where Itou had gone. What happened afterward was not something I cared to remember. Itou, too drunk to fight back, was quickly and easily killed by the men waiting for him. But the night was far from over. Battle and bloodshed waited at Aburano Kuji for Nagakura and the men sent to ambush the guardians of the imperial tomb. Fate waited for Okita, convalescing at the headquarters in Fudodo village. For them, for all of us, waited a night after which nothing would be the same.